Welcome to our podcast, Inspiring Living, with me, Mark Candelaria. I am an architect, blogger, traveler, chef, father, and husband. I am the founder and now partner of a fabulous 20-person architecture firm specializing in high-end residential architecture, designing amazing homes across the country. We have hosted tours over the last 20 years to Italy, Spain, and soon Napa. And in the course of all this, I have met a lot of interesting people who truly inspire me. We are excited to now be in our second season, and our podcast is about all the opportunities that are right there in front of us to inspire living. Yes, we will talk about architecture and design, but every week we will venture to all sorts of topics that will inspire you, teach you, and motivate you to inspire living every day. My guests will include a wide gamut of amazing people, from those in the design industry to clients to real estate professionals, chefs, artists, sports figures, and philanthropists, and people who just flat out get it. So sit back and enjoy, and let's have some fun exploring all the opportunities that are there just waiting for us. Please subscribe and get ready to be inspired every week. Okay, as my dad says, here we go. Welcome, everyone, and thanks again for listening to our podcast, Inspiring Living. Welcome to Season 2, and we are going to change up our podcast format. We are going to get right to our guest and their story, and then we will finish up our podcast with a quick summary, with takeaways from the podcast, and then our announcements, and finally a shout out for our sponsors. Today our podcast features a very good friend and a guy who frankly has more energy than anyone I know, including me, and many of you here in Scottsdale, PV, and Arcadia know him, as we all get our concert and sporting event tickets from this gentleman. Today we welcome Danny Sharaby of Tickets Unlimited. Okay, here we go. Okay, I have a very fun guest today. He's a good buddy of mine that I rarely get to see, but only because we're both so damn busy all the time. But when we get together, we always have a really good time. I've got my good friend Danny Sharaby with us in the house today. How you doing, Danny?
In the house. I'm great. Thank you.
I love what you pulled up in. That Jeep is out there is just spectacular.
It's a climb for me to get in it, but once you're in it, you're above everyone.
It's pretty damn cool. So Danny Sharaby is the founder and owner of Tickets Unlimited, which is a local privately owned company that handles the buying and selling of premium tickets for local, national, and international sporting, concerts, and theater events. And I've known you for years. I think that's where I probably first met you, is through something like that. Although there's some other stories that we have of how I might have met you too. But we can go.
I've been around like you've been around, so it's easy to run into each other.
Well, I know a lot of my clients, especially in the Arcadia area, know who you are. And you've been around. You've been here since when?
1982.
Yeah, so just shortly after I moved here. I moved here in 79. And
I was the youngest person ever to law school at Arizona State University. I was 4.
Well, yeah, and you're still a young guy.
Exactly.
We're still young guys. So tell us about Tickets Unlimited and how buying and selling tickets work for the general public, like our listeners. Tell us about your business.
Well, we are in the resale business of tickets. So clients will call us when they want to see a show and they want to see sit in a good seat, and they want to have a good time and not look at little ants on the stage or stadium or whatever, and that's what we do. So we try and provide an experience for them where they can see a show from a very great vantage point, and it's been a great experience for them. It's a great experience for me. I've had 22 couples in the course of me starting this business that have gotten engaged on tickets that I have provided.
That's cool.
And it's always great to know that you provide a great experience for someone that otherwise might not be able to have it.
That's amazing. So you've had rock concerts, and you've done big events, all kinds of events. Give me some examples.
Well, again, we don't promote them; we just sell them. Personally, I mean, you name it, we've seen it. I've sold tickets to. We have never sold an Oscars ticket because they are very strict, and whoever had the ticket would be put in jeopardy to never get to go themselves if they were an actor, actress, director, writer who's been invited. So they very much watch what goes on with those. But we sell Grammys, American Music Awards, Billboard Music Awards, Academy of Country Music. I mean, you named it. Super Bowls. I've been to 26 myself.
Wow.
We deal with World Cup soccer. We deal with Wimbledon, U.S. Open, French Open, Australian Open.
You name it.
Boxing, yes.
You name it. So
So obviously this year, with our wonderful COVID-19, that's put quite a damper on your whole operation, hasn't it?
It's been semi-death.
Oh, God. I just don't even know how. I want to know. I want to hear from you when you first started hearing this come on the scene. Let's just say it was about this time last year where we started hearing reports of it in China.
For me, I really started hearing about it in January, but it didn't affect anything. It really affected us like a bomb.
Well, the Super Bowl
like
was
a bomb.
was the last big thing, right? I mean, the Super
No,
Bowl.
the last big thing was the NBA All-Star Game, which was last February 15th to the 17th in Chicago. It was a very successful event. We had no inkling that the rest of this would be shut down. The first event for me that was a fairly major event for our company that was postponed, actually was canceled, and all the tickets were refunded, was Indian Wells tennis tournament in Indio, Palm Springs.
Okay.
We were completely sold out. We had clients there. It was starting Monday, and Sunday night, they canceled it.
Wow.
So clients already had gone there. Clients already were in hotel rooms. Clients were ready to go the next day, and boom.
So when they canceled something like that, do they just refund the money, or how did that all work? Or do they say,
Well, it's
when we do it next year, you'll have tickets for that?
We're stuck because they eventually canceled it, so we had to give refunds to everyone.
Give refunds to everybody.
But they held us highway robbery. We'd like your money to hold over to next year. You don't have to, but we may not be able to promise you your tickets for next year,
right?
Because you may have to go back to the next.
Yeah, no one knows
the beginning of the line, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, no one knows what their life is going to be a year from now anyway. So it's like, well, we can't even go the next year.
Yeah, we have given over $1 million in refunds for events that we've sold from the middle of March moving forward, and we're over $5 million behind in sales that we'll never recover. So we've lost, all of that, and it's. Well, obviously we've had a business for a long time, but it's a struggle to keep everything going, to keep employees paid.
Yep.
To
keep your infrastructure in place.
And the reality is, it's 3 times as much work to refund a ticket than it is to sell it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because you have to credit a credit card, you have to return the ticket, you have to wait for a refund back. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 steps that don't take place when you sell a ticket. So,
and I don't think it's quite as exciting for the person that buys a ticket when they get the ticket. That's kind of an exciting experience. You get the ticket and you go, "Oh my God, I'm going to Andrea Bocelli or whatever." And then when you get the refund, it's like, "Oh my God, I'm not going anywhere." I mean,
it's pretty disappointing. It's been a pretty negative experience, I think, for both the people that have bought and for the people that have sold them.
So, in what ways do you personally and Tickets Unlimited pivot to keep people employed? What are you doing? I mean, how are you bridging this gap?
Just out of my own pocket. I mean,
Holy
I'm just paying the money myself and covering my employees and doing the best that I can because they've been with me a long time, and it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah. Well, you've always been you've always been a person that struck me that way. You always seem to do the right thing. And
I'm eating a lot of tuna fish.
Yeah, I've been down that path. Well, we're having some good wine tonight, though.
Exactly.
Luckily, architecture's been doing pretty good. Everyone's
you
home.
guys have been busy, so that's good.
I was expecting it to be exactly the same as what you experienced. I was like getting everybody ready. It's like, okay, we're done.
It's amazing. I've dabbled a little bit in cars, and I've dabbled a little bit in art to help to try and bridge the gap. I have always been a big collector of art. That transition occurred when I met a guy by the name of Fritz Scholder, who was a very famous local artist, probably the most influential Native American artist in the history of the United States. And so I started building an account with him. He loved going to shows. So I would give him the tickets in advance. Eventually, I built up a credit with him, and I got a little piece. And then when I started making money, I bought another piece, And I love art. I love collecting. And So it's been a passion of mine ever since. So I've
That's
been
cool.
buying and selling some art lately. I'm actually on the Arts Commission appointed by Governor Ducey. We had a Zoom meeting today, a board meeting. But yeah, that's
Interesting. So yeah, speaking of Zoom, I mean, one of the things that we're all doing, we're all zooming around. What about virtual events? Is that? I mean, are there virtual events? Are there any way you can make money on a virtual event? How does it all work?
There have been virtual events. Generally, there's no limit because it's as many computers as you can
Yeah,
get and as
right.
big as they do. There are some virtual events that are geared towards season ticket holders of certain venues and certain theatrical shows, and so they limit the Zoom events because they want to keep their season ticket holders happy. So we may be delving into a limited amount of that moving forward, but generally it doesn't make us any money.
Interesting. So you're waiting for that moment where the vaccine's out and we can get live events going again.
Well, we have had some events. My wife and I went to World Team Tennis in West Virginia at the Briarwood Resort. They had the whole season there. All the players were in lockdown and stayed at the resort. It was very social distance, but we had an absolutely amazing time, and anyone that went to the event did. The World Series was held. Texas was opened up. So it was in Arlington at their new stadium. It was, again, limited out of 40,000. It was 12,000 people. It was outside. So I think people felt more comfortable. It didn't have the same effect as you being in the home stadium of the team.
Right.
So everyone, both home and away teams, had to travel there, and it loses a little bit of the
luster,
luster and excitement and the gumption for supporting your team. But there have been some events starting tonight. The National Finals Rodeo is in the same stadium in Texas. It's normally in Las Vegas. It's been very successful because people want to get out.
Yep.
And Cowboys are probably the most eager to say, screw this all. I'm ready to have a good time, and I'm ready to do it.
Yeah,
So
I mean, if it's going to
bring
be
it on.
the bull or the COVID, I'll take my chances, right?
I don't know what it'll be like. It starts today. It runs for 10 days. We'll see how that works.
That's pretty wild. Okay, so now we're going to do a little pivot on ourselves here. Tell us about yourself, where you're from, your first jobs in schooling. I read your bio here, and it's pretty incredible. You had an amazing life. You got to tell the story because this is very cool.
Well, I grew up in New York. My grandparents immigrated from what is Jerusalem, which was Palestine, from Yemen. I'm a Yemenite Jew, so I'm an Arab Jew, so I have lots of conflicts in my life. They grew up on the Lower East Side. I grew up in Brooklyn. We moved to Long Island when my dad made some money, and that's where I grew up.
What business was your dad in?
My dad was in the jewelry business.
Yeah, okay.
So he was a manufacturer, and great guy. He was partners with his two brothers. I kind of look back on him when he worked because when I was a young kid in my teens, I would go and sweep the floors in his office, as they were manufacturing. The gold may have gotten on the floor, a lot of dust and stuff. So I went there and helped him out. I think back to that time, there were no such thing as cell phones. He would drive 2.5 hours to Manhattan from Long Island with his brothers in the car, and they would drive 2.5 hours back with the traffic. So 5 hours
of their day, every day.
Of a day besides the 8 hours at the office. And
right.
I'm like, I'm on my cell phone starting at 7 a.m. I've accomplished more by 8 a.m. without leaving my bed, even if I don't want to, than he did.
Yeah. Well, that 2 hour drive, there was no phone calls.
No, they would
You're
sit
in the
and
car.
talk. They would listen to the radio and the news. WINS Radio, which is the news station, 1010 WINS is how they would call it, and that's all they would do.
Oh, that's crazy, isn't it? We've lost that perspective.
It's unbelievable. I mean, in some ways, I guess that's a simpler life. I could personally not want to deal with it like that. I like the action. I want to be.
You and I are a lot alike in that regard.
And I mean, sitting in a car for 5 hours a day accomplishing nothing is not
yeah,
what I want.
I mean, now we stop our day to try to meditate for 10 minutes if we can.
Yeah. And I promised myself that when I grew up, I would never live more than 15 minutes away from where my office was. And I have kept true to that promise since the day that I started in the ticket business. I lived at the Biltmore for 24 years. My office was at 44th Street in Camelback. When I moved from the Biltmore, I moved to our Paradise Valley, just off of Lincoln.
Yep.
And 32nd Street, and then I moved to Arcadia, and that's where I've been ever since. And now that my office is in Old Town Scottsdale, I am still
Right there.
within 10 minutes of where
You're just like me.
I live.
Same thing.
I ride my bike sometimes I'll walk, but I don't want to waste any time.
I'm the same way. I try to limit my time in the car as much as I possibly can. And if I'm in the car, I shouldn't say this, but I'm working. I'm eating, I'm doing lots of things. I try to focus on driving too.
My wife, Jenna, my kids have a problem with me in the car working because I'm on the phone and I am not paying attention. Most of the time, I think I'm perfectly capable, but I think sometimes I've avoided situations. Luckily, God's watched over me because I think I could have done some damage.
Yeah, we both have to be careful in that regard. That's for sure. So, in New York, your dad's driving back and forth with his brothers or cousins or whatever, and you kind of got into the business a little bit yourself. And you went to high school. Where'd you go to high school? In Lawrence?
I went to high school, Lawrence High School, which was in Cedarhurst, Long Island, in an area called the Five Towns.
Yep.
When I was going to school at Lawrence, I started selling ladies' shoes at a store that was both in Cedarhurst and in Great Neck on Long Island called Gildor.
Okay.
It was a very, very popular, very successful shoe store. And one of the guys that I worked with side by side for almost 2 years was a guy by the name of Steve Madden.
Yeah, I've heard of. I think I've worn a few of those Steve Madden shoes in my life.
I think he has $1 billion plus corporation. There was a movie made about partly his. Starred Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
And, Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall is about him.
Is
his story.
About kind of how he started, and
So when you told me that in your bio, I did a little research on Steve Madden, and I'm like, you read his bio, yours is good enough too, but you read his, and he's just like, that guy was in prison, and
he was in prison for what happened in the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They were selling stock and dumping and doing their thing and getting the price higher and. Yes.
Interesting. So you knew this guy back in high school.
I knew him, but way back when. I had not seen him probably in 20 years, and then 15 years ago, I was delivering tickets to the W Hotel in Scottsdale, just off of Camelback Road, and I was at the concierge, and I was getting ready to leave. I was waiting for the valet to bring my car out, and there's a guy standing in the lobby, and I'm looking at him, and he looks at me. He says, "Sharaby?" I said, "Madden? What the heck are you doing here?" We had a big hug. He was doing a major event at Nordstrom's at the mall the next day. He says, "Oh, my God, we wound up having a drink in the bar." He's
That's
like,
cool.
"Do you have kids? I haven't seen you. I know we've kind of, and long and short, yes." So, he gave them each a pair of shoes the next day. He signed the shoes to them. He was like, "I know your dad since we were young kids." It was just kind of funny. We've kept in touch since. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that is pretty. It's funny how sometimes your paths cross like that, just totally unexpectedly, isn't it?
And another friend from high school's kid was the designer for him. At the time, it was just kind of funny how things worked out.
Yep. So you got in the shoe business a little bit then.
Just selling. It was something I did, and then I went to college, and since I had that experience, my second school that I went to after my first school was University of Washington in Seattle. I had friends and family. I had actually family. My uncle and my cousins lived in Seattle, my mother's brother.
Well, let me back you up a little bit because there was something else in your bio that I thought was really interesting. You mentioned a time that you went into the city and you were either working or something, and you were in the jewelry store. You had some.
That's later.
That's later. Oh, okay.
So when I wasn't in college and I went to Seattle,
So why Seattle?
I said I had an uncle and family there.
Okay.
My uncle promised me, I have a car for you. He was a big real estate guy. He had apartment complexes. You could stay at my apartment complex, So I went there. I played tennis. I tried to get on the team at the University of Washington. I didn't wind up walking on. They were much better players than what I had anticipated. But when I was going to University of Washington to make money, there was a store up there that started out as just a shoe store
called
Nordstrom's.
Yep.
And I worked at their flagship store, in downtown Seattle for about a year, and so it was a continuation of what I did in high school. I
Interesting.
once sold one woman 51 pairs of shoes
In one day?
in 2 hours selling shoes at Nordstrom. So that at the time was the store record. And
I wonder if that was my ex-wife.
one of the kids that I worked with. One of the guys that I worked with was Peter Nordstrom, who's the current CEO and president of Nordstrom from the original Nordstrom family. So
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you're on the ground level of that whole deal. At least you saw the
kinda
beginning of it.
long time.
Yep. So from Seattle, what happened?
I moved back to Long Island. My grandfather
Okay.
passed away. I kind of missed my family and my home. You know, I come from a big family. My dad was one of 12 brothers. My mom was one of 5. I had
You had family all around you
there
all
were-
the time.
there were- I had 4 siblings, 5 of us all together, always family, and I just missed them. I just had one uncle there and a couple of cousins, and they
Yeah.
were older than me. So I moved back to Long Island. I wound up graduating from college at a school called Hofstra,
Okay.
which is in Hempstead, Long Island. And while I was going to school at Hofstra, because I had an in with my dad and he was in the jewelry business, this popular thing had started popping up at hair salons in the city and Long Island where people would open up little jewelry boutiques in these hair salons. And there's no better place to catch a woman who feels good about her nails or
Yeah.
how she looks until after she just
You
had
need
her
that
nails
just that
done.
one little more
Or her
accoutrement.
hair, right. So, you know, most of the people had like, were selling costume jewelry or little tchotchkes for sweet 16s or bat mitzvahs, whatever. And because of my family being in the real jewelry business, I stepped it up a little bit. I did have the same tchotchkes because we did have sweet 16 gifts and bat mitzvah gifts and stuff like that. But I had diamond jewelry and real gold jewelry and silver jewelry that, you know, appealed to especially wealthy Long Island women
Yep, yep.
who had money to burn,
Yeah.
spend. So I
Started doing
opened a
that.
boutique in a place called Peter's Place, which was in Cedarhurst, and it was successful. So I had made the decision I was going to expand, and I was going to open another salon in a place called Frederick Fekkai in Manhattan, which is a place, I don't know if you remember Deborah Lipman.
Mm-mm.
She has a big nail manufacturing, nail, what do you women put on nail, polish.
No polish?
She's
Yeah.
world
That's
renowned. She does
not in my
nails
world.
she does nails for all the actresses, celebrities, musicians at all the award shows. Anyway, she has a line. I wound up meeting her in Arizona. 20 years later, she went and worked at Frederick Fekkai in Manhattan. So you talk about how things come back. Anyway,
Yeah.
I was opening a boutique there and preparing to do it. And one night, just before Christmas, I stayed open late in this hair salon because it was open late that night, and I wanted to get more business for Christmas. And I was approached entering my car, pistol whipped, semi-kidnapped, I guess is what you would say, for about 6 hours. I wound up
Holy cow.
escaping, and it was on all the news. It was on. It was in Newsday, Long Island's newspaper, New York Post. It was in the New York Times. It was on the same Winds news station that my dad used to listen driving to Manhattan every day, and
So how did you escape?
it kind of freaked me out. I ran.
Running's good
Short and
sometimes.
long and short of it, I ran. I was able to get away, and
But he had
so-
all your stuff.
yeah, he got everything.
Got everything.
So my business was shut down.
Wow.
I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to leave New York. New York's a great place to visit. I love it. I wish if I was a gazillionaire and I didn't have to deal with the general population and I could just eat and drink fine wine and eat
Yeah.
good food, it's a great place.
yeah,
But
live,
when you have to
live
deal,
about 40 stories up, you're
right,
okay
when you have to deal with the grind of the city and just
every day.
the it's just too much for
Yeah.
me. So I made a decision. I hibernated for 2 weeks. I was scared. I didn't want to
It was
talk
traumatic.
to anyone. It was really a bad experience for me.
Yep.
And
How old were you
so
then, roughly?
I was 21.
Okay.
So I made the decision. I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I know I don't want to be in New York. So
Right. And you'd had a taste of Seattle, so you knew there were other things out there.
right. And I decided I would go to law school.
And you put some applications out there.
Applications. I took the exam. So this happened in December the 24th. the next exam for the LSAT was in February. I wouldn't get my grades back until the middle of March, so I applied to every school in America that had April 1 or later deadline. So I could.
You could get in.
Yep. And Arizona State offered me a full scholarship, in-state and out-of-state tuition. They advertised the dorm with, which was an old Holiday Inn hotel on Apache. So it had a pool. In the brochure, it had girls in bathing suits on lounge chairs. And I said, my favorite basketball player at the time was Paul Westphal, who was the Phoenix Suns guard.
Yep.
And it was voted the #1 party school.
Yep. That's why
by
I went.
Playboy magazine that year. And I said, I'm going.
So you'd never been to Arizona before?
Never been to Arizona. I was on the plane coming here from New York. I'm sitting next to some old guy. He's asking me questions. So you've never been? Well, you need to take a desert survival course. I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, yeah, don't go anywhere without water. And let me explain to you. And I'm thinking, as he's saying this to me, what did I get into? And we took off, and the pilot, when we took off, said, hey, it's going to be it's going to be a hot day in Phoenix, temperature though now is only 84 degrees, as we get closer we'll let you know. I said, okay, that's not so bad. 84 degrees, okay. And then 30 minutes before we're making our initial approach, we'll be landing in 30 minutes. Please put your trays up. Temperature is now 97. I'm like, 84, 97. It's only like, look at my watch. It's only
what happened?
Like 11:15. So 20 minutes later, hey, we're making our final approach. Temperature is now 103. I'm like,
I'm going to hell.
What the hell am I getting into between the guy on the plane and the pilot telling me the temperature? I'm like, God. So I get off the plane, and obviously it didn't dawn on me I'm in an air-conditioned airport. So I'm like, this is not bad. And I brought my bicycle from New York. This is where you could, take anything you want in a plane back in the day.
Yeah.
So I brought my bike. I said, I'm not getting a car. I'm really going to be serious about being a law student, and I'm going to take this very seriously. And so I had my bike. I had 10 boxes, okay? So I had made arrangements for one of those van-type
things,
take you, group shuttle, whatever. So I got all my boxes. I have a little valet guy with me, whatever, and I'm walking out of the airport to get to the shuttle thing. And the doors from the airport open, and it's like
a blast.
You cook a lot, all right? So you stick your head in that oven when you look all of a sudden, whoosh, and I'm immediately doused in sweat, and I'm like, oh my
shit.
God, now I really want to know what I got into. So we get in the shuttle. There's a student from, I'm sorry, but some African country that I don't know of that's in the shuttle next to me who smelled like he hadn't showered in forever. So now I'm between
the heat,
the pilot, the guy on the plane, drenched in sweat, and this guy, I'm like, oh my God.
Isn't it funny? Yeah, you don't forget things like that.
I remember, and so now I get to the dorm, which is, like I said, this old Holiday Inn that's on Apache Boulevard. Of course, my room is on the second floor, which is fine. I got to get the boxes and the bike up to the room. I get it in there. Okay, everything's fine. I whip off my clothes. I put on my bathing suit because when you enter to go up to the stairs to the unit, you see the pool, and you see people swimming. So I threw off my clothes. I'm telling you, I put my bathing suit on. I grabbed my towel. I ran down. I threw my towel on a bench. I dove into the water, and I don't know if you know what it's like getting into a pool in the middle of the summer in Arizona, but it was like a hot bath. And I'm like, it can't get any worse. What did I get into? But in the end,
There had to be some pretty girls by the pool, though.
Arizona's been very good to me. My oldest friend from law school, his name is Phil Noland, and he's a criminal defense attorney in town. I met that afternoon. He was talking to a girl outside by the pool, and I walked right by him and cut him off. And he always remembers he's talking to her. Hey, how you doing? I'm Danny from New York. What's your name? He was in the middle of talking to her. I was like, what? Who the hell are you? He was from Yuma. He didn't get that part, and he still makes fun of me to this day. But yeah, as far as I can say, Arizona though has been great to me. I've never left.
So you adapted.
It's at that time it was the Wild West. You
was.
could do what you wanted to do. You could
So what year was that roughly?
1982.
82.
It was
yeah.
August of 1982. I mean, the farthest north Scottsdale Road went to a Shea,
Yeah.
and then it was a
It was
dirt road.
road. Yep, I totally remember that. Pima went dirt right north of Shea,
So
pretty much.
Yep.
Yep.
it
So
was
those
the
are
Wild Wild West,
So good old Tempe.
and it was drinking age 18.
Yep.
So
I think it was 19.
No,
but-
it was 18 years old when I came here. And I remember, even in New York in 1982, a bottle of beer was $4 or $5. I couldn't even afford it. There were nights at some of the
Dooley's
places in
Bandersnatch
some of those. It was all you could. There was one place all you could drink for $5 cover charge from 8 to 11, and they gave you mini pitchers.
Yeah.
And you would drink there, and if you tipped the guy $2, the bartender, he was yours for the night. Let Danny through. He took. Yeah, come on. What do you need? Yeah,
So how did
You
the
went-
how did the ASU law experience go with that environment then?
Well, again, I came to Arizona State Law School in Arizona because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I get to my first law class, and they tell you about, all the other students in your class. When you first start, you're in bigger classrooms. So some of the classrooms even included all the students for certain big
Yeah, I remember
contracts
those,
and
yep.
whatever. And the median age of my law class was 34 or 35.
Wow.
Okay. And the oldest person was 74.
Holy cow.
I was the second youngest person in my law class. I grew up on Long Island, okay? A lot of successful people, a lot of Jews, a lot of Italians. And, either when you graduated high school, you went to college. When you're done with college, either you went to law school, you went to medical school, you went to work on Wall Street, or you went to work in your dad's business. So
Yep.
for me, going to law school at 21 was kind of natural. Like, that's what people did. At law school here, so many people were second
Middle-aged.
career. No,
Yeah.
like there were CPAs that wanted to be tax attorneys.
Yep.
Okay, it was in the height of the medical malpractice business. There were 5 doctors in my law class wanting to become lawyers so they can go sue doctors for medical malpractice. So there were a lot of serious people, and I'm here just kind of saying,
Let's have some
I
fun.
want to have some fun. I want to learn about myself. I want to, learn about life. And
22.
at
That's
the end
what
of
you're
my
doing.
at the end of my first year of law school, I had to have a B average to maintain
Your scholarship.
my in-state and out-of-state.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I maintained a B minus scholarship, and so I lost my in-state. My out-of-state scholarship,
Yep.
but I had been here a year, and the second person I met at the dorm, there was an apartment that was reserved for the student regent of the Board of Regents. Every year, the Board of Regents has one student, and his name is Veda Manager. That was his name. I don't know if you know who Veda is. He went on to become the press secretary for Governor Rose Mofford. He was the press secretary for Sharon Pratt Kelly, who was the mayor of Washington, D.C. He went
Wow.
on to become in charge of global communications for Nike and Levi Strauss. So anyway, he helped to get me my residency. So at that time, tuition in-state a semester for law school was $750.
Right.
So I was able to
Make
keep
up the
with-
difference.
Make up the difference, except but I needed to work. So
You started you started working on some interesting ideas.
well, I had a friend who was a friend of the dorm RA, I guess you would call it,
Yep.
who worked at the box office at ASU.
Okay.
And at that time, there was no such thing as Ticketmaster.
No, there's nothing
Select
online.
the
There was no
Seat.
computers.
No. The only place you would buy tickets in Arizona was a place called Diamonds,
Yeah, I can remember that.
which became Dillard's.
Yep.
And so they had
That's right.
They
had
had
that box
li-
office.
They
thing.
had little old ladies in the customer
remember
service
that.
department selling tickets.
Yep.
Okay, and most of the shows at that time, because there's no Talking Stick Arena, no Gila River Arena, nothing.
It was the
It
Coliseum.
no, and the Coliseum was mostly the Suns and the fair.
Yeah.
So most shows occurred at the Activity Center at ASU,
That's right.
and and they didn't even have their own box office. The box office was at Gamage, so that's where most of the tickets were sold as hard stock, because they didn't even have a computer there.
Right.
So I had to figure a way to pay for my expenses, and the best buddy of the guy that was the RA in the dorm was a student supervisor at Gamage. So I had sold, talking about my experiences, I've seen Bruce Springsteen 52 times in my life. If you're from New York, if you're from New Jersey, if you're from
He's your
East
guy.
Coast, he's the guy. So
Yep.
I had seen him probably 2 or 3 times
Before.
and when you buy tickets for him, a lot of guys buy extras to sell to help pay for themselves to go.
Yeah.
So I did that a few times, and I was able to make some money. So
not only were you able to pay for your ticket, you were able to put some money in your pocket.
That was my theory when I asked my friend at the box office, can you get any tickets? And so the first show, so he said, sure. I said, well, okay, I want to maybe buy some. And so he said, okay, how many do you need?
Right.
I said, well, first show was Billy Joel was coming to town. I think the ticket was $8 or $12. I said, I don't know, can I buy 6 tickets? He said, yeah. He said, okay. I said, okay. He says, what row do you want? I said, what do you mean, what row do I want? He's like, well, because we don't have our own computer, Diamonds prints
The tickets. Or
the tickets in advance, and we have them in racks inside, and we get 1/2 of all the floor seats and the first 2 sections of the risers next to the stage. So they're all there. So I'm like, seriously? He's like, yeah. So I said, okay, can I get 6 tickets? He says, again, where do you want? I said, can I get like 5th row? He says, sure. I said, okay, and how do I, you take care of me a little bit after. So that's how my first experience started. I sold the 6 tickets the first day. You could put an ad in the personal columns, because, again, there was no internet.
Yeah. So it was like the New Times?
No, it was the Republican Gazette.
Okay.
And they had a personal section in the classifieds.
Yep.
And they had a special, 3 lines for 4 days for $7. So I put a personal ad, Billy Joel tickets.
Yep.
And the first 2 guys that called me, one guy bought 2, one guy bought 4.
So you were done.
I was done on
Immediately.
Monday after the sale. So
the little light went off on that.
Next show came, and it was Huey Lewis in the News at the height of their stuff. And this is again like 1983.
You remember all the shows.
Oh, I remember, because so Huey Lewis in the News came, and I said, can I get a few more? Can I get more tickets? He says, yeah. I said, okay.
Let's go 12.
Can
this
I
time.
get? I even think maybe I said 8 or 10. He said, okay, sure. He says, what do you want? I'm like, seriously, okay. I'll take the 6 in the 5th row. You got me. Maybe 2 or 4 in the 3rd row. He says, sure, no problem. Well, I put an ad in the paper, but what I didn't count or think about was that the 2 guys that bought Billy Joel would call me back.
Huh.
So I already had
You had a clientele building up.
the 6 sold to those 2 guys, and now I really only had 4 tickets or 2 tickets to sell for Huey Lewis, because
So there you go.
and that's how it started.
And it's been going ever since.
Yes.
That's amazing.
By the time I graduated from law school, I was probably 80% ticket guy, 20% law school.
Yeah. So did you ever practice law?
Never practiced. Part of what bothered me about the whole legal community was, my fellow law students knew that I was selling tickets, and some guys would come up to me in the morning, some guys would come in the afternoon. What you do is illegal in 13 states, 27 counties, 15 cities. And I'm like, you know what? Shove it, okay?
Yeah.
Because it's legal in Arizona. I can charge whatever I want to do. And some people actually think I'm doing them a great service.
Sure.
So
there you go. So it went from there.
Yep.
So it built up pretty fast, didn't it? I mean, or did it take a long time to get to where you are?
I mean, there were no guys that really had storefronts until like 85 or 86. So it took 2 or 3 or 4 years of doing it full time
Yeah.
before, we were taking
And the
credit
computer,
cards.
the
I mean,
computer
it was always
changed a lot.
cash and checks, Then as business grew, people wanted to write it off, so they'd put it on their credit cards, and we had to start doing that, et cetera. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because some of the business, I mean, they've changed the deductions on how some of that works now.
Either way, people still want to put it on their credit card, whether now it's for getting points,
Just for
points
yeah.
or whatever. I mean, so
Exactly.
we take it, and it's great. And, like I said, never look back. I love what I do. I love being around people that are successful for clients.
Yep.
I love being around people that are successful. I love music, whether it's comedy, whether it's acting, all that stuff. I think it intrigues me.
So in your business then, I'm sure over time you started meeting the promoters of these concerts. I mean, they just went directly to you, didn't they? Or how does that all work? I mean, I don't want to delve into your secrets of your business, but obviously over time people know Danny Sharaby can sell tickets.
There have been artists, managers, promoters, coaches, owners, every aspect of every organization that at certain times has felt very comfortable and has done business with me, whether either as selling or buying or whatever. We have, a lot of very important, big clients and people that we deal with.
That's interesting. That's very cool. So what are some of the things that you see coming up, though, in 2021? Do you see some of these events busting through and starting to happen again?
Well, we know that they're going to have limited fans at the Waste Management Phoenix Open.
Right. So that's coming up. That's one of the big things coming up in the next 60 days.
It's the same week as the Super Bowl.
Yep.
It's hard to say how many they're going to have. It's not going to be what it used to be because all the big venues are going to be shut down.
Yep.
But I mean, I'm just looking for opportunities to do something. I mean, this year from March the 15th through now, except for the limited events we've talked about, has been, tremendously hurtful and bad for my industry. I mean, I know, look, I'm one little cog in the wheel. I mean, I think about hotels.
Right.
I think about airlines. I think about small restaurants and bars all over, including, the Manhattan, the place that I love to visit, and I've left from. These guys are never going to recover. You look at Los Angeles with the way that they've handled the complete shutdowns, and now you can't even eat outside there.
They're shutting everything down again.
These guys, suffered through it. Now they went out and spent more money to get heaters and increase their seating outside because they had the space or built out the space, and now they're shut down again.
Yep. No,
they
crazy.
didn't even give them Thanksgiving weekend. I mean, they cut it off on Wednesday. Why didn't you let them have the last weekend and then say, we're going to do something gradually?
Yeah, and I don't think we've seen the full fallout of that whole deal yet. Have you? I mean, I think the worst is about to come for those businesses. They've survived to now, but I think
with the hope for something. I mean, it's going
Yeah.
to take 6 months to 9 months for people to get this vaccine.
Right.
Okay, it really is going to take that long. And then even then, how comfortable are people going to be sitting next to strangers?
Right.
I don't think the mask thing is going away.
Right.
Because even though people have passed the tests or they've taken the vaccine, I don't know that people are going to feel comfortable. I mean, I'm the kind of guy.
That's a good point.
I want to sit. Before any of this happened, I want to be on an aisle seat. I don't want someone sitting next to me. I don't want the guy spilling his drink on me. I don't want to sit next. That's my wife's responsibility, is to sit next to the person I'm on the aisle.
Well, and I wonder, once we get the vaccine, is there going to be some kind of app or some kind of wristband or?
Well, they are talking about.
How are you going to know that the guy next to you has gotten the vaccine or not?
Ticketmaster is talking about, and they have the what's the word? The technology to have on their app. There's a test that you can take that takes 15 minutes. So, and then your results go onto the app that they have. And so with the ticket, that's mobile transfer on your phone, and the positive result, you'll be able to go up to a machine at a venue
And show that.
show that and swipe that, and then you'll be able to enter. If you don't have
Interesting.
both the ticket and the positive
Yeah.
or negative,
So there is
test,
going to be
or
some means of doing it.
Yes. But how that will work and how soon they can get enough tests out to all the people that will have to have this positive test, and it's going to have to happen every time you go into a show. Like it's 15. It has to be done within 2 hours. It can't be transferred to anyone else. It's on your phone, and that the technology is that way. I mean, it's a lot to maneuver.
It is a lot to maneuver. So backing up a little bit, in terms of some of the events that you've been involved with and some of the celebrities that you've crossed paths with, what have been some of the ones that have stood out in your experience in your time? And I'm sure you've run into some amazing people.
I mean, that's a loaded question, but I mean, I mean,
Where do you start and where do you stop, huh?
yeah. I mean, I've met my idol and hung out with my idol, Bruce Springsteen.
How cool is that?
I mean, I've met Paul McCartney. I've met, I'm friends with Mick Fleetwood from Fleetwood Mac. Every time he's in town, we go backstage and spend time with him. Regrets I never got to see the Bee Gees. You remember my dance? I did Saturday Night Fever. I did the John Travolta.
Oh, I'm a huge Bee Gees fan.
Yeah, and I never got to see them. I did get to meet Michael Jackson once and
Wow.
see the Jackson 5. I mean, the Rolling Stones I've seen, 22, 24 times. The Who 16 times.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
I've
So
seen,
let's go sports. Give me some sports things.
I mean, I've been to 27 Super Bowls, like I told you.
pretty good.
I've been to the World Cup. I've been to the Olympics. I've been to and sold tickets to all these events, obviously. Wimbledon, French Open, U.S. Open. Every year we go. I love tennis. I play tennis and pickleball.
Yep.
I mean,
Pretty amazing.
What kind of stuff do you like? Maybe you'll tell me.
I'm not big on the crowd thing anymore. So I'd probably do your Zoom events.
Seriously?
Hey, I liked Andrea Bocelli.
These older people, I don't get it. I mean, come on.
Is Andy Williams still singing?
From
Tony
his,
Bennett.
from his grave.
Tony
Tony
Bennett.
Bennett.
Tony
We saw
Bennett's still out there.
Tony Bennett at the Celebrity Theater last year. We
Yep.
sat front row. It was amazing.
Yeah, he is amazing. That
We
guy
saw
is amazing.
Frankie Valli, if you have an opportunity to see him, is amazing.
He's still out there.
I love the
I
Four
saw
Seasons
Frank
music.
Sinatra one more time before he passed away. That was
Did
good.
you ever see him here in town with Liza Minnelli or anything?
I missed him with Liza Minnelli, but I saw him with Edie and Steve Gourmet.
Yeah. Was that at Celebrity?
That was, I think, at Cricket.
Outdoors?
It was outdoors.
Really?
Yeah, it was different.
I mean, I've been to Coachella. I've taken my kids to Coachella. The one great weekend I took Jenna to. We went and saw. They called it Old Cella because it was geared towards us older folks. But it was called what was it called? God, I'm brain dead. But Friday night was Bob Dylan opening
Oh,
for
that's
the
cool.
Rolling Stones. Saturday night was Neil Young opening for Paul McCartney.
Yeah, so all these guys are in their
And
70s
Sunday
now.
night was the Who opening for Roger Waters from Pink Floyd.
Yeah, isn't that amazing to think all
It
those
was
guys are
called
in their
Desert Trip at the same place where Coachella is.
I mean, you would never think at some point in your life, I'm going to go watch guys in their 70s and nearly 80s jam out.
Elton John was one of the greatest shows.
Yeah.
And huge market for tickets. People
Crazy.
want to see the old. I don't think the young generation
Okay, so that was going to ask you
stuff
next.
is as popular. I mean, these award shows, if you look, they're having the worst ratings now at a time when people can't even go see shows. People do not.
They're just not. They're not as. I don't
They're
think
atten-
they're not as entertaining. They're not as multi-talented.
Well,
as
it's not
Paul
even that. You could
McCartney.
see them all day long on the internet, whether it be YouTube or whatever. So who's going to sit and watch for 3 hours
Right.
an award show on TV? Especially young people, they don't have the attention span for that, and they can see it anytime. So what makes
it's
it any
changed.
more important?
Interesting.
I think the award shows are pretty much a thing for the past. I mean, maybe the Oscars, or the foreign press thing. What's it called?
Yeah. The Golden Globes.
Golden Globes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, I think award
I think
shows
it is changing.
are
I think
done.
you're- I think
They're
you're
done.
right.
They're done.
I think you are totally correct. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I used to love watching them, but now it's like I barely could make it through an hour.
And everything's so political.
That's
that
the other reason I don't like it.
I don't want to. Like Madonna is a great entertainer, but I will never go to a show of hers because I'm glad you have your perspective on life. But I don't want you to preach to me
Right.
when
I
I'm
didn't
at
come
your
here.
show
Yeah, I
about
came
what
here
it
to
is
listen
you
to
have
you
going
perform.
on. Whether it's blue or red or purple or orange, I just don't think it's part of the experience.
I totally agree. And sports is kind of the same thing. It's becoming it's been drifting that
But
way.
you're far enough from the players.
Yeah, they're
that
not stopping on the
they're not
between
stopping,
plays,
right, and saying, "Hey, by the way, you know what I mean?" But yeah, for music, it's and I believe people have good intention.
Yeah.
But I don't think
that's the venue.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. So here's my theory: is I think once this vaccine comes out and everyone's feeling better, it might take a little time, but I personally think people are going to go berserk.
I agree.
I think people are going to go absolutely berserk. If Elton John was to perform anywhere, he will sell it out within seconds, which he would have anyway. But I just think people are going to go, look, I may never get to experience this again. Who knows what's around the corner?
But the
I've been
question
trapped for a year.
is
I'm
the
ready to go
average
see this
guy
stuff.
going to have the money to spend to go?
Well, yeah, that's
You
just
know?
it. I mean, there is two forks in the road, and one
If-
fork's making a ton of money. The other fork's is barely skimming
And it
by.
depends where he's playing, and it depends, how full it is and how much he's charging. Because
Right.
if they're doing 50% capacity, which is still better than zero, is he going to go out on the road to make half as much money, or is he going to charge twice as much money for the ticket, and then that's how he's going to get his money? So I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, there's always questions, but
It's going to be interesting.
I am looking towards that time to at least be able to find out. Because right now we don't
Can't
have
do
anything
anything.
going. No,
Yeah,
it's
that's
tough.
crazy. So in terms of that, so what keeps you going, and what is a typical day or week for Danny Sharaby? Because you're always busy. I watch you. I see you. I know what you're doing, and you're always going. You're 100% go.
I'm an ADD kind of guy. I can't sit still. My wife is always telling me about my attention span, which is not very good. I have to constantly be moving. I took a role now as on the board of directors of the National Association of Ticket Brokers, which is an organization that has been around now in its 25th year. It represents brokers all over the country. It has approximately 250 to 300 members, and I'm trying to help keep this industry viable and together, because a lot of people are hurting, and
Yeah.
so I'm spending a lot of time, maybe 16 to 20 hours a week, working there to try and
that's
promote
awesome.
the business and stuff. I'm on the Arts Commission for the state of
Yep.
Arizona, and I'm doing that. I'm doing whatever my wife tells me to do around the house, even though I try and avoid it. It's undeniable. I'm doing a lot of projects that just are keeping me going, and then I'm exercising. So I go to we belong to Arizona Country Club, and I'm playing a lot of pickleball and tennis, and
That's good.
just trying to keep myself
Keep
out
yourself
of trouble.
rolling.
Yep.
That's awesome, man. So one thing I wanted to know is, like, you've got all this wild stuff going. You got these, great events when they are happening. What do you do to calm yourself down? How do you are you always
My
on
wife
go?
asks me. We go to San Diego and Coronado, and I have a boat there, and I try and relax on my boat.
There you go.
I try and relax by going to events out of town more than here, so I can at least get away, and I don't have to deal with the aspect of always being in the office and stuff. But I like what I do. So some people want the time away, and I don't.
Yeah.
It's what's kept me.
I'm kind of
I'm
the same
60
way.
now, and I feel like I'm 40, and I can hang with anybody, and I'm drug free and just happy on life, and happy that I have 3 wonderful kids that are
How old are your
happy
kids
and
now?
successful. 26. Rachel is 26. She lives in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, that's a cool place.
Leia is 24, and she lives in Bellingham, Washington.
Wow.
And Sarah still lives in Arizona with us, and she's 17 and a senior at Veritas Prep.
There
So
you go. There you go. That's
and
pretty cool.
She's looking at a school in Nashville.
So 3
or
girls,
just outside. Yes, 3 girls.
just like me.
Yep.
How
We're
come,
blessed.
how come you
We're
still have
blessed.
hair and I don't?
You you said something about how you used to dye it and then it fell out. I don't dye. Mine is all natural, and so I don't.
I used to use the spray foam, man. So, and your wife Jenna, she is an absolute dream. We had a fun dinner here. I don't know, 6-8 months ago
It was
before
probably
everything.
more than that.
Maybe
before
more
this
than that.
pandemic.
Yeah,
Time is just
for the
fun.
pandemic, and we had a great time that
Yes.
evening. And we got to
You
do
have
it
a wonderful
again.
wife too, and we do, and we wanted to have you at our house.
We'll
we just
do
got to
it.
figure out when, and
Yep.
you got me tied down to do this, so I'm going to tie you down to dinner.
Well, I appreciate.
And you can
doing
bring
this.
your daughter Tiffany too.
Yeah, she got us all together here, so she gets a lot of accolades for keeping this thing going. But you're a great guy. I love hanging out with you.
I appreciate
love
our
having,
friendship. Thank
I
you.
love having dinner with you. We did Dancing with the Stars. You touched on it really quickly. 2011.
Yep.
It was in February or something like that of 2011, and you won the damn thing.
I did. I raised $130,000 for the Kidney
That's
Foundation
amazing.
that year, and it was fun. And I had after my divorce in 2003, I kind of went a little crazy and had fun, and I gained some weight, and I used that as my incentive to lose it. And
I lost about 15 pounds doing that thing.
I lost 40,
Wow. Well, that's why you won.
and
you
no,
danced.
I worked harder than you, Mark.
Well,
You're
you
too,
did.
You were too busy. I dedicated, and ticket brokers all over the country backed me, and it was great, and I felt
That's good.
And
That was a fun. That
but
was
it
a
was
fun night.
fun. That was the best
Yeah.
night ever for that event too. I mean, everyone loved it. Everyone was so into it.
Yeah.
Polly Levine was in it
Yeah.
that year.
Polly Levine.
Mike Gallagher from Gallagher and Kennedy.
It was a good group.
We had a great time. It was
Yeah,
fun.
It was a lot of fun. Can you believe that was almost 10 years ago?
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's crazy, isn't
Crazy.
it? So what's ahead? What's ahead for Danny Sharaby?
Right now, it's just keeping everything afloat and watching what goes on and doing what I can
Get to
for
the other side.
community and get to the other side and take care of my people, my
Yep.
family, my employees, and just
Write it out.
hope for good things, and just I'm
Good
glad
things are
that-
coming.
I'm glad that good things are for you right now. As an architect, you're busier than ever.
Busier than ever. It's crazy.
People sitting home are spending money online for cars and art and things because they got nothing else
No,
to do.
You can't travel. You can't go out
I
to
mean,
eat. You can't do anything.
I know big companies that have committed to not be in their office through at least August of 2021.
Yep.
Like, we're not going in.
Yep. That works.
And that's crazy.
I know. Yeah, I think it'll change. I think it'll change pretty fast. You watch. I hope so.
I hope you're right.
I hope so too. Spring training. What's the deal with spring training? What are you hearing on that?
I'm a
almost
almost
so I'm like-
every team except for your Giants
Yeah.
and the Cubs, the two most successful teams with the most fans, are saying no season tickets. We're going to do game by game with social distancing. Of course, the Cubs and the Giants sent out full season ticket invoices as if,
Nothing's happened.
like it's a regular year. And
Yeah.
I mean, they're just going to keep your money for 3 months or get you to hold it over to the next year and then refund you because there's no way
I don't think so either.
the Fiesta Bowl was canceled today with fans.
Huh.
ASU's just trying to have one football game healthy. It's not happening. Today just
The NFL is kind of turning into a mess.
they've had they say this is the first season that the NFL would have had a game on every day of the week.
Yeah.
Usually
we
there's
had a
Sunday
game
and Monday, there's Saturday and Sunday in the finals, in the playoffs, they have a Thursday night game, but this one game was moved to Tuesday this week, one game was moved to Wednesday this
Well,
week.
the Broncos didn't even have a quarterback.
No, they tried to get their assistant coach as their quarterback, and the NFL turned them down.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, their
What a year.
wide receiver became the quarterback. He was 1 for 7.
So I mean, it's going to be interesting when you look back at the statistics and you go, "Well, what happened in 2020? How come the numbers are all
Yeah,
jacked up?"
the home run leader had 12 for baseball. And it's insane.
So weird, right?
Yep.
Well, thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. How do we find you? How do we hook up with Tickets Unlimited? Give us a
Our
rundown.
website is ticketsunlimited.com. Our email is mail@ticketsunlimited.com. Any questions, you can buy tickets 24 hours a day on our website, at that website. And, otherwise,
Keep it going, baby.
call the office at 480-388-3888, and it will give you my cell number if you want me directly. So
There you go. Love it.
we're not afraid of clients. We always want to take care of you, and we will always try and make the experience a pleasant one and a joyful one.
Which you always do. Thank you so much, man.
Happy holidays, buddy.
Thank you, Danny, for taking the time to join us. Man, what energy this guy has. And he is staying so positive and doing everything he can for his people through these difficult times. So I commend you for that, my friend. Danny is yet another great example of someone who followed their passion and what they love and has made a total career of it. It's just a great story. We are hoping 2021 brings back the concerts, the sporting events, and shows we all enjoy. And Danny will be right there teeing us all up. So thank you, my friend, and hang in there. Okay, I want to give a big thank you to all of you who have been listening to our podcast as our listeners keep growing nicely. Thank you also for the ratings and reviews. Remember, the first review we get dated December 12th or later will receive a free Candelaria Collection pasta maker. So give us some love on those ratings and reviews and make sure you direct message or email me that you posted the review so we can get you your pasta maker, okay? Don't forget to do that. We want to get these pasta makers in your hands. So happy holidays and happy Hanukkah to you all. We are looking forward to our Candelaria Design virtual holiday party set for this Friday night as we have gone back into full working from home mode. Okay, a couple of quick announcements. Check out the Euroconic Life Magazine's Iconic House Winter 2020 show home designed by, of course, Candelaria Design, built by TMAC Development, and featuring the interior design of over 20 top designers from not only Arizona, but from across the country. You can tour this year's iconic house right now online. You can find the link in our story notes and on our Candelaria Design website. In fact, we got to cook dinner there for the TMAC team last night. We did it all outside, brought the camp stove. We made a couple great paellas, kept our social distance, kept our masks on, and we had a lot of fun. So it was nice to get out. We kept the number of people small and had all the doors and windows wide open. So we did our best, but we did get a little celebration, and it was a lot of fun. Check out our virtual cooking class from last weekend now on our website and on YouTube featuring Chef Jessica Williams as she made an amazing Instapot cheesecake. The recipe is on our website with a link in the podcast story notes. So gather your ingredients, get your Instapot ready to go and follow along. You will be enjoying cheesecake in Candelaria style. You will not be disappointed. It was amazing. Okay, make sure you check out our spectacular 14-page spread in the new holiday edition of Phoenix Home and Garden magazine, just hitting the newsstands, featuring one of my favorite Candelaria design homes that my partner Vivian Ayala and I designed in the middle of an 80-acre lettuce field in Yuma, Arizona over 10 years ago. This is a 14,000 square foot home where we designed everything down to the mouse houses in the baseboards. And trust me, these are not just any mouse houses. These are tricked out by miniature artists June Klingsdale and Chris Toledo. They are over the top, so check this out. And from ultra traditional in Yuma to our super modern contemporary in Paradise Valley, yes, we do modern contemporary, you need to check out our cover feature in the November-December Lux magazine featuring a stunning Candelaria design home built by Schultz Development with masterfully designed and decorated interiors by designer Anita Lang. Check out her podcast in our Season 1, Episode 40. This home won Best of Show 2020 by the Arizona chapter of the American Society of Interior Designers. Okay, we do our best to inspire living in everything we do, from our podcast to our cooking classes to our tours, and of course with our Candelaria Design homes. Have a great week, everyone, and let's live our lives with love, compassion, grace, and positivity. Okay, see you next week. Because Inspiring Living is all about the people and the organizations that inspire us, we are excited to have Monogram Appliances as one of our sponsors. Anytime we do a new kitchen or a kitchen remodel, Monogram Appliances are what we recommend to our client. Their appliances are the definition of luxury, meticulously detailed using the finest materials and an ownership experience that is second to none. This is how Monogram is always thinking ahead and inspiring and elevating the kitchen experience. Because at Monogram, they don't just elevate one thing, they elevate everything. I want to say a big thank you to my good friends at Stockett Tile and Granite Company, where your project is our priority. I want to thank the Stockett team along with so many others who contributed to the success of our fabulous demonstration kitchen in our new Candelaria Design office expansion. You will have to check out our online video cooking classes, and our kitchen is amazing. I've had the pleasure of working with the Stockett team for nearly 40 years on many spectacular projects, and trust me, they are the epitome of excellence when it comes to tile, marble, and granite work, bar none. Their skill and customer service is impeccable, and the bottom line is they are just good people. I have traveled with, dined with, and just had good times, both personally and professionally, with Dave Stockett and his lovely wife, Becky, and they are the best. When it comes to your next tile and stone project, make sure Stockett Tile and Granite is a part of your team. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed our podcast. We encourage you to write a review, screenshot it, and share it with your friends. Please instant message it to me and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We thank you for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights to inspiring living next week.